Okay, I decided to try out a reading this evening, mainly because I have this new deck, the Tarot of the Hidden Realm by Jeffries, and I want to see how it reads. I didn't want to do anything too complicated, so I thought I'd try a basic 3 card spread for October. The cards don't have any positions, but they do follow on from one another, so the first card stands for the start of the month, and the last is for the end. I don't have a particular question for the tarot, but I guess that work could be relevant at the moment. Okay, so the first card is the Page of Pentacles. This kind of makes me think of work straight away, to be honest. Even though I'd usually see the Suit of Wands as a suitable match for the passion involved in what I do, I see the actual act of making in this earthy Pentacles card. This fairy looks as though she's scratching at the ground with her hands. I'm using my hands to cut and pin and sew my bags and dresses together, so this whole idea of being hands-on is pretty relevant to me. She's connecting with both the earth and with her work on a physical level. Even though the Page of Pentacles can often be a person in our life, due to her youth, she can also stand for the beginning of something. She's so young, and the earth beneath her hands, you could say, is far older and wiser. So this is kind of how I see the business I'm trying to start. What with the designing and the making and the photographing, the making of my internet site, which requires a lot of graphic work here on the computer, the building up of my shop online, the publicising of my work on Twitter, etc., etc. The whole thing can be quite overwhelming. As I've said many times, I'm the boss, the hands-on worker, publicist, the photographer, and the IT guy all rolled into one. So sometimes I feel in control of what I'm doing, but mainly I feel overwhelmed by what is required in being self-employed. I think that despite this fairy's dedication, she's also understandably quite naive, which is something I can definitely relate to. As well as this being a beginning, this young fairy is also a student. I can kind of forgive my naivety because I am new to all of this and I am still learning. Each step along the way is a learning curve for me, be it working for myself or learning new techniques with sewing. With the first card of this layout, I see study and the beginnings of something growing. I've only been doing this for a short amount of time, but I can already see my work finding its own space and taking root. This feels like quite a good start for October, I'd say, since I have an order I'm working on at the moment, another prospective, larger order, and a house party towards the end of the month. Okay, let's move on to the next card, which is the King of Pentacles. Now that's interesting. There's definitely growth between the first 2 cards, both being from the same suit. The Page of Pentacles grows into the King of Pentacles. Could this be a maturing or a greater understanding of business, maybe? Or maybe it's, since Pentacles relate to money and finance, it's an increase in funds. With the orders and the party, I suppose this could make sense. It's funny because I didn't make many bags last month, but I did sell some of my stock unexpectedly. I was concentrating on making my 1950s dresses for the majority of September, but visitors came here and ended up looking through my older stock and buying. I hadn't expected that, so it was a bonus, I suppose. Looking at the first 2 cards, I can see progression. This has less to do with being creative, I'd say, since they're both from the Suit of Pentacles and concerned with down to earth, everyday, nitty gritty. I think it'd be about getting into the studio and knocking out what needs to be made rather than playing on new ideas and trying out other patterns I've bought. I really need to get a lot of stuff sorted for the bag party as well, since I'm low on stock, and a lot of my stock obviously that I've already made has already been bought, so I need to get some things ready for the party, because that's what I think this is probably talking about. The other thing that this card makes me think of is a mature advisor. I think of this because I booked an appointment to see someone from the Chamber of Commerce this week. The appointment is at the end of the month, and I think it's the guy who I saw at the group meeting that I went to before. You might remember me talking about that, the one with the tattooist and the landscape gardener and the photographer. I'd hung about after and chatted with him on my own and showed him some pictures of my work, and he'd been quite impressed and said he'd hope I'd make a one-to-one appointment, so that's pretty much what I've done. I wonder if this worldly wise King of Pentacles represents him. If so, then his advice may well be of some use. This guy in the card looks like a grandfather, actually, rather than a father. I mean, the rest of the kings in this deck are all pretty young, and this one stands out. So I look at this as mature advice. The last card in the trio is the Empress. This is one of my favourite cards. I don't mean in this deck specifically, but generally. She's the one I look out for a lot because she symbolises complete creativity to me. I know I said already that the other cards are about the physical and mundane side of my business, but this one could be saying that I'm getting back to exploring and trying new things out at the end of the month, since she's the last card. I think this is important because the trio is quite strict about my focusing on what needs to be done and being practical for the majority of October. This last card is even more vibrant than the others in colour, I notice as well, suggesting maybe that I can be more artistic and think out of the box a bit more when my to-do list is that bit more free. The other thing I notice is that this is the only major card, which leads me to believe that the work put in at the start of the month will bring about rewards and abundance, and therefore that reward and abundance might be quite large. So generally, looking at the three here, I'd say this is a pretty good free card reading because it builds itself up and matures as it goes along. We've got the page studying, and she works at the beginning, and the Empress delivers at the end of her lap full of apples and goodies or whatever that might be. I think that as Christmas approaches, there could be more opportunities for me, which is what the fruit in her dress represents. People buying Christmas presents, craft fairs, that kind of thing. So these cards kind of lead up to that, getting that preparation in my studio and making more things for Christmas time. Okay, so I think this deck reads pretty nicely. The images are pretty open and easy to draw from without using the book. They've got a kind of autumnal feel, which is obviously good for this time of year. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed sharing this reading with me, and we'll come and visit my blog again at princeandlormond.wordpress.com. Goodbye for now.